I had an hour worth of stuff to do in 20 minutes before I started, and then listening to everything this morning, all the things I wrote down that I want to add in, just no time to do it. But the people at the table tell you, I'm kind of worked up. But I got through it, and I decided this is just job security, right? And I'm only 66. I got a lot of years to work yet. But that's part of my angst about this. You know, I don't know how much time I have. And when, was it Clark who said he got his B school MBA in the 90s? And I look at Clark and think, oh, we're contemporaries. I got mine in the 70s. So like, I'm really old. I got to get this stuff done. And what's really frustrating, the main message from when I was getting worked up, was that Doug Campbell, Bill Pulte, Alan Lang, Michael Dickens, Scott Sedam, and a few others, Mike Rhodes in Chicago. If any of you ever had the honor of knowing him, best VP of construction in history. Gary Grant right there with him out of Minnesota. We were talking about all these same issues, all these same problems, all these same dreams, goals, 25, 28, 30 years ago. And sometimes it's almost a little depressing that where have we gotten? But again, I get, okay, it's a job security, because I love my job and I love knowing so many people here and touring the country, and so I don't have any plans to stop for now. But it came up in these sessions here, here's the big elephant in the room, and it feeds right into my presentation, what I'm doing today, what we're working on, and I'm trying to solicit a lot of people's input for what we're doing. I'll show you. The elephant in the room is that the C-suite executives don't get it, and they don't know how to count. And I would sit with anybody and look them right in the eyes and tell them that. They don't get it, and they don't know how to count. They aren't counting the right things, and the things that few that they are counting, they aren't counting the right way. And the bottom line is they don't understand the true total cost in their business and where the waste is coming from that's sinking down their margins. Everybody in the country has good cash flow, slow to low growth, but expenses going up faster than prices. Everybody's in that boat. Everyone's got margin squeeze. And if you think you're going to fix it by the old techniques of hammering on the suppliers and trades, you're kidding yourself, your own people. So there are ways to fix it. We've absolutely builders doing it. I'm going to real quick throw in this one. There was a famous builder, great reputation, a lot of great people that we did projects with all over the country with. And I'm going to be really careful I don't give away the name. 11, 12 years ago, our week-long lean things that we do. They turned up incredible stuff. We've done over 205 of them now in 12 years. And they always work because of the knowledge of the builder team and the suppliers and trades together. It's incredible. We just redid a couple, January and February. What their intent was to take it all around the country again. This is going to be great. 23, 24 divisions, huge, probably the biggest single contract we've ever had. They did those two big cities, two of the top, I'll just say 20 cities in America, right? Their teams knocked the cover off the ball and their suppliers and trades. It was mind-boggling. So they did that, and then corporate got a hold of it. And corporate made decision, well, we can just take the results of those two cities and create a top 10 list and go have one-day management teams in every city in the country, give them the lift and tell them to have at it. And I tell you, the presidents of those two divisions said, it's such BS, it'll never work because you don't get the buy-in and the participation of not just their team members, but those suppliers and trades. So crucial blow, but on the other hand, I go, well, okay, that's just job security. So here we go into the meat of things here. I've actually only got, I think, 9 slides. Of course, any one of them I could talk a half a day on if you know me. Let's see. Right one, okay. Here's what we're working on. On-site versus off-site, a total cost analysis. How do we get to the true total cost and to come up with a tool, an Excel template that anybody can use to really work through them and compare? And this is just getting started. I've had input from 15 or maybe 20 knowledgeable people, and since then I've got another 20 emails, and I hope I get a bunch from you all, and we'll keep making this. Someone put up the Rosie the Riveter slide from Ypsilanti, Michigan, where I fly out of all the time. And then that beautiful young lady on the right, who's a newborn intensive care nurse in one of the greatest hospitals in the world. Really tough job. I'm immensely proud of her. That's my daughter, Kiernan. and they had a fundraiser, and she did her. That's Kiernan the Riveter, so I just had to throw that up there, because she sent me that picture an hour before the guy put the picture up yesterday. So that was kind of fun. All right, there's Kiernan. So situation. In the past 30 years, I and a lot of other people in this room are now experiencing, I kind of counted up, the 5th cycle of off-site manufacturing is going to change everything. This is the 5th cycle. There are things pushing it even harder now than before. The opportunity is absolutely there. And I want you to know, I'm a believer. I'm an absolute believer. I started out production at U.S. Steel. I learned the primitive kind of production there in the bad days. And I went to high-tech Motorola, first winner of the Baldrige Award, first winner, the only 2 winners ever of the Deming Prize. And I met Deming, Duran, Feigenbaum, Crosby, all these guys, and got to work with them. I didn't know what impact that would have in my career. Then a couple of consulting firms, and I got a little frustrated with the consulting world, and I got this crazy offer and ended up in January of 1899. That's probably about right. January of, what year was it? 99. As we think the first person in the industry that had the title Vice President of Quality. And I also had and customer commitment. So that started this whole crazy thing. So little has changed, though, and I know there's examples of people doing really neat stuff here and here, and I've seen it. It's out there, but it's a percentage impact on all U.S. housing production, what, 1%? 2%? So in terms of real change, other than maybe trusses. And panels are crazy, come and go, come and go, come and go. It has to happen. It absolutely has to. One thing that's got to be solved, and a lot of companies have built amazing plants. There was one in Toronto that was beyond belief. I was one of the few people who were ever given permission from the outside to see it. When volume went down, they had to take it apart, take it down. There's a couple others out there now that are, volume in the particular areas are making them really nervous. If you had told automotive people, I'm a Detroit guy, that 30 years ago, we would be building not just multiple cars on the same platform down the line, but different frame platforms down the same line, they'd say you're smoking the curtains. That can never be done. They do it routinely now. All of them do it. We are going to have to learn how to do things things we haven't thought of before. So that's under presentation. All righty. So the opportunity, we've heard a lot about that. Reduce the labor, material, cycle time, overhead. Come on, it's after lunch. You got to get a laugh with that slide. Okay, that's the new crews coming in to do framing in Phoenix, right there. So they're going to undercut all that. So guy sent me that picture. I thought it was a lot of fun. Reduce complexity. That's an overhead shot of a real freeway exchange in Los Angeles, but complexity. So everyone's focused on labor, material, cycle time, overhead, and I'm a big advocate there. But if you want the big picture name of it, is to reduce complexity. That's what we're after from these systems, whatever level we're having. So that's what we're going for. This is a plan from one of maybe the best company I've worked with out of 250. And I'm going to tell you who it is because most builders, we're really careful to take the names off. But this guy, you've met him. Have you ever met Son Sullivan? How many? Now, okay. Son would just you'd tell anybody anything. You know why? Builders can't copy it. They can't figure out the culture. They can't understand what we do. They've done over 10,000 homes. You know how many chargebacks they've issued in 10,000 homes? 0, never one. I don't have time to explain why and what they do. It makes them a lot of money. Son will say, you want to make less money? Do chargebacks. Okay? And a good friend of mine, consultant in the industry, put out a LinkedIn post yesterday telling everybody they ought to do more chargebacks. And I sent her a note saying, after our 20-year relationship, finally it's something we totally disagree on, but we'll get counseling and we'll work through this. Okay? You can probably find that on LinkedIn if you look for it. This is 3 plan reviews using 20 suppliers and trades and the 830 questions we use on our lean filter, broken up among 20 groups. And after 3 days, and they all came through and we sat down and worked, if you could read it, there's a number up here that says, boom. Oh, it won't reverse. Well, that number, you see how messy that plan was. There's a number that says 176. 3 plans, 3 days, 176 improvements. And by the way, we find that 60% of the improvements apply to all plans, 20% multiple, and 20% just that one. So this totally changed things for them. Everybody got better. they made more money, their cycle time dropped, and their suppliers and trades made more money. You improve 176 things on your plans, it changes everything. And you can't do it sitting in a room with some smart guys. We got some really smart guys. God, I sounded like Donald Trump. We got some really good people. Yeah, fantastic. Sorry about that. We got some really, really smart guys. You know what? And you know, Carlos here with your background experience, Carlos could come in and do all sorts of that for you. But Carlos and I and all the other smart guys wouldn't come up with 1/3, usually not 1/4 of what your suppliers and trades will come up if you can enable them to do it. Now, the problem is, and I wrote a column about this last year, and the title was, "You guys don't count so good." Anybody remember that? Okay? And I intentionally used the bad grammar. And my mother was an English teacher, okay? I know grammar. But I did it to say, and I mentioned at the beginning, that we don't know how to count things right. Simple example, I ran into this last month in a city in the Midwest, I'll just say. Guys, well, we looked at trusses on this. It was $1,500 more. Really? Yeah, we bid 4 different truss manufacturers, $1,500. I wish I could walk through step by step and give you the dollars. But after we looked at, he calculated labor and material to build a structure, transfer point loads to the basements, purlin, stiffeners, post beams, headers, labor and material for thickened footers, reduction in site weights, reduction in cycle time, and some other stuff. Other trades are involved too. Guess what? It went $1,500 to the positive. No brainer. And they changed. They counted a little bit of this stuff. They didn't know how to count it. They missed so much. So this was a huge eye to them, and I started thinking, if we could come up with this template, and we're gonna give it away, you know, we have other templates. Have any ever used our Save Day calculator template? Save Day? Anybody ever use our trip cost calculator template? Okay, if you send me the email and just put Alliance in the email and stuff's in there, scott@trend.com, it's Alliance. We'll send you the links. You can download those for free. All we ask is that you let us know what you learned. They're extremely powerful. And it's way more money than you think it is. So from a $1,500, by the way, this is came off the internet. There's a place called GoToQuiz, and you can put it in and find out if you had a bad math teacher or not. So I recommend that all to you. So it was a no-brainer. All right, so here's the deal. We're gonna do this tool. Here's a critical piece of the background, and this is a national, I don't know what that word is, it's a national crime in this country. And I mentioned with the trades that 90% of the builders, it's probably more like 90%, use 90% of their criteria. I'm sorry, that's complicated. Anyway, all the builders use bid price in terms of true practical behavior. They may say some other things, but talk to the trades and suppliers. Bid price is their criteria. Buying by bid price alone guarantees you one thing and one thing only. Okay, ready? That you are never going to operate by lowest total cost. Once in a while, you'll just get lucky. Once in a while. So if you're doing it by bid price and force your purchasing people, and by the way, they know better. They know what's really going on. So there's 10 different elements to look in total cost, and you gotta look at it. So, by the way, let's try this as an experiment. How many of you are builders know a 3-year rolling average of all the major trades on your site, their state workers' compensation factor? Shoot up your hands real high so we can see all the. I wrote the first column on this 20 years ago. I learned this from Mike Rhodes 30 years ago. And if that's the only thing you do from this conference, a year from now, you'll say, Scott, that really was great. You've got to know how they're doing on safety, and you don't go beat them up over it. You find out how you can help them. All right. So, ongoing home building fail, there is no versus. Okay? It's inarguable. We're bid price versus total. Get rid of the versus. The jury's, it's done. There's no arguing this point. Total cost is the only thing that matters. And if you aren't counting total costs, you're missing it. You're missing it and you're losing money. Now, Excel template, free, I say we have the save day calculator, we have the trip cost calculator. It requires thinking total cost, or you're just going to miss half or probably 2/3 of the cost. So the first step is really fast. How much time we got here? Oh, okay, all right. Is I laid this out, and this is going to get more complicated, but this is my first pass. It's in the article. And by the way, there are 2 handouts back there, And I've got them here, and I hope you grab them so I don't have to carry any home. This one is, let me just throw this in quick. This is a compendium on bridging the margin gap, process and profit. And this is, to the more current presentation today, this is the article I put, The Next Great Thing or Not. The editor took or not off there, but you'll see it in here. And what it is how many people remember BuildNet? Okay, I tell a really interesting story about BuildNet, what I went through with them 20 years ago, and they had everything solved, right? Everything. They went through $100 million of other people's money. But in here, you'll see the pre-publication article. You got it first. It won't be out till next month, this time, of the article about what I'm doing here today, okay? And then one in the back that'll help you. It's called 10 Elements of the Total Cost Model. So if you want to know more about that. All righty, so 4 minutes to go. We can do it. So, so subcomponents down at the bottom. Stairs, doorways, cabinets, stoops, various subcomponents. And by the way, there was a lot of that going on before the crash that didn't come back. Schedules are worse now than they were before the crash. I tell you this, we worked with this builder, this amazing builder, great reputation, and here's their situation today. Their schedules are terrible. Their plans are terrible. Their variance is out of control. And if I told you the name, you'd look at me and say, you're making that up. There is no way. But that's the reality, okay? So, engineered precast foundation, like a Superior Wall is a company. Wall panels, roof trusses, and if you combine those, it's even more complex, okay? Pre-cut labeled frame package like BMC, I love that stuff. Off-site assembly with on-site erection. There's multiple companies. The one I knew off the top of my head was Integra. And that's where they're building, putting together off-site and bringing it in and erecting it for their own captive crews. And finally, fully modular like Irontown Blue, all-American homes. We were looking at those literally 30 years ago. I remember going to Decatur, Indiana, just south of Fort Wayne, going through the all-American plant with Bill Pulte, and he said it was the best construction he'd ever seen. So for total cost comparison, what do we measure, okay? Alliance has an off-site solutions business value calculator. And I didn't find it until yesterday morning. I missed that, I didn't know it existed. And comparing them, there's some similarities and differences, and we're gonna get together and collaborate on it and try to come up with a unified model, okay? So here's what it looks like. Now, I'm just going to give you these steps and encourage you to read about it. And what I'm asking you to do is send me anything you would suggest that's got to be measured in the steps, okay? We don't have time to talk about them all today, but here they are. Cycle time, direct material, direct labor, okay? That's pretty. Now, this is huge. Direct labor material other than framer. There's a lot of other people are impacted too, okay? And a lot of people don't ever count that and measure it. On-site waste. People talk about that a lot. Builder admin, people miss that. There is no builder in America I have found yet that measures variance, VPO, EPO, FPO, measures variance correctly. Nobody. And if you think you do, please come up to me and tell me how you do it. And I'll be wonderful. I will write about the builders who have figured it out. I've written about this several times, what you have to measure. Variances tend to run anywhere from 10 to 100 times more than you think they are. And my example I wrote in a column not long ago was a $6 keystone that ended up $1,100, and something like that was happening on 80% of the builders' homes. So, you know, any person get a $6 VPO, they think, why are you wasting my time? It was $1,100 all costed, and those are real numbers. Okay, so builder admin, the planned trip, everybody gets that. The trips we're going to reduce. But wasted trips are an epidemic in this industry. We are averaging over $10,000, and we have 4,800 case studies of that now, data points. So if you want to argue with that $10,000 a house, I love to discuss this stuff. Just need 1 minute, and do I have to touch it? Okay, so show it to me. But we've got the data on it, and 10,000 is a very conservative figure buried under the average house, every house in America. If you want to feel better, Canadians are worse. They're about 12,000. Okay, so VPO, EPO variance, is out of control, and people are not measuring it right. It's at least 10 times more cost than you think it is. Often it can be 50 times, 100 times more. In process, rework. Now let me skip the warranty. Everybody gets warranty reduction. What everybody's missing is all the rework done in process. And how do we measure and value that? That's probably the single hardest thing to do here. And then finally, equipment requirements. Some of you have cranes already. Some of you have to, so let's say we were talking earlier about how, man, when I was a young buck in the industry a long time ago, you'd never find a concrete pump and a crane just put up trusses. You know, they hand up a 3-story house, hand up to trusses. Now you see pumps everywhere and you see cranes everywhere, for better or worse. There are some good things about it, but it's a lot of money. So we got to look in what's the difference in your equipment requirements, okay? And by the way, and transportation should be buried in that delivered cost, but we could separate that out, debating that. So basically, that's the deal. So that's what the template will end up looking something like one of these, and they always have instructions line by line like a tax form, okay? Remember, as a good Dr. Deming always said at the end of his presentations that he did up until he was 91 years old, and that's my plan, all we have to offer you is profit. Deal? All right, here's the, if you want to get any of that stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Wow. I've never seen Scott give that much info in that time. He's got a lot of good, no, I'm serious. He's got a lot of good material. 20 minutes isn't enough, but that was a good primer, so thank you.
I stole it all.
Yeah, good man. So let's go after those costs together. The calculator we were developing, Scott's got one, because at the end of the day, we've got to get the money, the value case defined, or, you know, we're not going to win. Scott, we have time maybe for a quick question or two, if anyone have something for Scott? Mike?
Scott, who's the guy in the picture up there on the slide?
I said yesterday, who else? Clark. Is Clark still here?
He had to leave.
I said Clark needs an updated picture even worse than I do. Didn't I say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the question was, who's the good-looking young buck on the left there?
I was way beyond young buck status in that picture.
Who else? Another
Okay,
question?
I'll get a new picture.
I saw a hand go here.
George Casey behind
Judge Casey. Here's another young buck.
So Scott, it sounds to me that one of the issues here is structural, that when the decisions are made by the purchasing person who is really looking at just the hard cost of the house, they're not thinking all these other things.
Judge, just relay that to Scott. I think he was packing his
Scott.
bag. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, here.
There he is.
Question.
Okay, so structurally, the purchasing person is looking at just kind of the hard costs. Really, a lot of the benefits happen in the soft cost areas and so on and so forth. Should the idea of a purchasing department be reimagined so
Absolutely.
that there's somebody out of the finance side who's in there that's looking, what does this mean for overhead? What does this mean for interest? What does this mean for all these other things? Is that one of the solutions?
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely, yeah. And the purchasing person's first job, they should be thinking of every day when they come to work in the morning. The first thing they should be thinking, and I'm 100% dead serious about this, is how can I make my suppliers and trades more profitable today without writing a bigger check? If you had them doing that, that forces them into thinking beyond the hard cost. And the very best builders, you know, the DSLDs, the JAGOs, that's what they do.
Last question to Scott. Who was that builder again with all those? No, just joking.
I was so afraid.
They better not be one of our clients.
I wasn't even going to mention the cities. Because,
okay, well, thank you again, Scott. Bert, John, I don't know who's coming up first or together. Come on, tap dance together. Take us away.
Okay. This one, right? How's everybody doing?
Good.
So my name is John Osborne. I know a lot of you. And this is my friend Bert Stevens. And
We're friends?
I think so. And there's another gentleman in the audience, Randy Hansen, who's sitting back here. He doesn't like to talk very much. But he's more of the reason why we have had the success in what we do. So the Alliance asked us to talk about kind of what we're doing. And by no means are we perfect. So the goal of today is just to kind of give you some exposure to some of the things that we're doing as a company and what the way we're thinking and how it's going to, we believe, set ourselves up for success long term. So, we feel like that we're using innovation to address affordability. It's not happening immediately, right? So people like Chuck and many other big builders in the country, and my role is a national builder liaison for our markets. So, but the way we operate is we're operating in 25 markets across the country, and every single one of them have decision makers, and every single one of us has leadership teams to deal with that. So we have a platform that we've created. We call it ReadyFrame. Who in here has not heard of ReadyFrame prior to this meeting? Everyone kind of understands what it is? I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. Basically, we design and print on lumber, okay? And we deliver, printed lumber. It's a build by number set, essentially. And the reason we do it, the why of this is because, we personally don't make very much money selling lumber. I don't know if you guys, any builders in the room that tend to be willing to leave a lumber yard, every 30 days. Is there any of those in here? That's not easy for us. So commodity lumber is a commodity pricing. So we, over 12 years ago, 15 years ago, we started working on a way to use design and to differentiate ourselves to provide value to our customers. And the reason we do it is because there's a lot of waste. There's a waste in time for us. A driver costs $25 an hour in that dry run that you talk about. Those extra trips, we measure the trips to the job. There's a lot of money in that. And that's in your, the affordability is the issue, right? So it's in your price, builders. All that stuff that we do, and it's a maybe not individually, builder by builder. We don't charge you per delivery because a lot of you guys don't want to pay for delivery. But there's real money that's in your price today. So if you want to get organized, you will address the price of your home. So the quality is less. The excess material is an obvious one. Everyone talks about this, the dumpsters, et cetera. So I thought I'd give you a glimpse into what I'm personally trying to learn about. And this is a systems map. This is a simple systems map. And essentially, if you look at the home building company in the middle, I'm only going to talk about what we do, and you could expand this on all of these different areas. But essentially, there's manufacturers, material distributors, and installation trades, and a lot of data that's flowing in between all of these things. You could take this across plumbers, electricians, HVAC. You could take this 25 things out, and all of these lines of communication and data communication and transactions are all in your price, right? So this is a pretty fragile system. If anyone's ever studied Salim Talib on fragility, this is a fairly fragile system, and it's evident in the headlines, affordability issues, and we have a problem. So what we're trying to do is simplify it, and so we've hired Bert. How long did we hire you ago?
About 4 years ago.
Okay, 4 years ago. So you'll be more interested to hear what he has to say than what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to set him up.
Right.
So we think that there's opportunity for consolidation in distribution trades, but the reason that they exist today is because of the behaviors of the builders today. So the builders are looking for the lowest possible cost. So businesses specialize and scale. Manufacturers, distributors, installation trades all specialize in scale in order to provide that lowest cost solution and quality, to the builder. But in so doing, each single one now has, essentially, there's like an oligopoly in every single one of those trades, right? And have you ever seen what kind of vehicles these people drive? We heard someone say, division president's making $1 million. Everyone in here, if you evaluate how much money we all make, this industry pays all of us extremely well. It pays all of the owners of these companies extremely well. They got houses and boats and cabins and, the trades. And so it pays us all really well, but we don't have a product that's affordable. So we're having to figure out how to engineer around it. And I think it's an interesting perspective and one that I'm going to continue to work on. So what we've done, BMC, is we've tried to provide a platform to where we can build upon a complete solution, where we take your plans and design a builder's plans, manufacture products, components, trusses, floors, doors, and do it accurately installed, and then provide other products along the way. So, we're not perfect at this, and we're learning ourselves. BMC West, started this process, like I said, 12, 15 years ago. And we bought some companies, we're merged with some companies, and we've been trying to train those people. But it's new thinking, right, to be able to do this. And we've done a significant amount of it. So we've advertised this slogan a lot. I just thought it's relevant. The future of framing is now. Like it's possible to get this, and it's possible to get it from other people than BMC. There's other people that provide panels, and there's new equipment on the ground that our competitors could buy, but the behaviors of the builders are really not aligning with necessarily going with this. And I loved what you said about quality and evaluating the customer. I think there's a huge benefit that we see with this clean job site. So I wanted to share an example, and I thought I'll almost close on this. This is Ashton Woods' product, Starlight. So what we did with these guys is we found a framer that was willing to do other things, and they paid him less for doing more, like I talked about over here. And those are 77 houses that were framed and sided, and windows installed, exterior doors, so fully dried in 90 days, so 77 homes in 90 days. We would drop 3 and 4 homes at a time, 7 homes at a time sometimes, and so they're organized the way that they do it. They reduce that hierarchy that I showed you before. All those individual specialized trades were now doing more things. So the people stayed on the jobs longer. They did more things. So and it existed because we were able to kind of have a 3D model that we were able to communicate with them. So BMC is committed to doing more of this, and we have some internal goals that we've set for ourselves. We designed and built over 17,000 houses last year. I've shared that number with some people. So it's a pretty significant number from an off-site production standpoint. We think we can do significantly more than that with just the equipment we have. We have, 36 facilities across the country in just ready frame cut package facilities. We have 16 wall panel plants. We have 32 truss plants. And Bert's, all about helping us figure out how to do it more efficiently. So I'm going to turn it over to Bert, and I think you guys are going to want to hear some of the cool stuff that we have in that right button right there.
Okay. I'm going to go quick. So quickly, these are some of the terms that we have. There's a word cloud we hear from companies. I've gathered them from just about every business output. So you'll put these terms out: Six Sigma, improvement, process management. All these are terms that we continuously say throughout the companies that we deal with. But what we know is each one of these have actions. So what we did is, when I came into BMC, what we've created was the BMC operating system: people, processes, performance. When we don't worry about performance, if we have our people in line and our processes together, our performance will come. Our BMC operating system is built on lean terms. So in my 2 decades, I don't look that old, but 2 decades of practicing lean throughout the manufacturing industry, I've taken some. So in the BMC operating system, we got a little Toyota in there. There's some Danaher. There's some Ingersoll Rand. There's some GE stuff in there. There's a whole bunch of different things in there that we created for our people. And we use this as a mantra for our people, and they own this system. I work for the people of our company and our shareholders. So we make sure that we are following what we need. So when you look at it, first thing we're looking at is what is waste and what is value. And we're going through our own company to figure out what is waste and what is value. And we're trying to make sure that we are tackling the waste. When you try to improve value takes valuable processes that have value takes a long time to get a return on. So you attack the waste first. So we go through and we make sure that we're attacking that. And we go through that, with BMC since I came on. We've got 1 master belt, black belt, 6 black belts. We just finished our 40 green belts that are out in the market. So we're attacking this. We're on the offense. So when you look at it, we're looking at how do we improve our value stream. I'm more concerned about our value stream with our customers. So you're not doing lean if it doesn't touch the customer. So we try to make sure that we're touching our customers and we're building business partners to make sure that we do that. So we're improving our value stream and we're going through our keys, we're changing our outlook on KPIs. So everybody know KPIs, right? So we're changing ours to more of the OKPs, okay?
What's that mean?
So when you look at it, when you're looking at a KPI is an indicator of something that's already happened. It's a key indicator, right? So that's already there. We're trying to do an objective to change it before we get to the KPI. So we have objects that we're going after to make sure that we're tackling those. That changes our KPI. So we're not focused. KPIs are going to happen. So we want to make sure that we're changing that. And we're doing that by reducing the cost. So we're trying to go through, make sure that we're taking all the non-value added activities that are happening. Some of them has to happen, some of them don't. And we're trying to take it out. We do this by a value stream. So I just taught 40 people how to do a value stream map in Atlanta yesterday. And it's real simple. We're looking at our suppliers, we're looking at our customers, and we're making sure that we're mapping out exactly all the steps that happen. Now, I'm not going to the managers to ask them how this is happening because they only know 75% of this, right? The people who do it know 100% of this. So we go back to them, we try to figure out exactly what we can do to attack it. When we're looking at it, we're looking at how information flows, how material flows, what changes we can make, and how do we attack that with reducing the cost, right? So these are what we are concentrated on to make sure that we are in a better position to help our customers. One thing that we look at internally is our suppliers, right? So there's two supply strategies, right? You got your single source and then you got your multiple source, right? And some people think the multiple source is better because I bid them against each other and they fight it out and I get the lowest price. But sometimes that costs you more money to do all that. Sometimes you have to build a value stream between you and your supplier. That way you can take some of the waste out. They've got purchasing guys, I got purchasing guys, so sometimes there's a way to kind of make that work out. We look at that internally to see which one is the best way for us. So we work with the Toyota production system that says single suppliers, you can go an 80-20 rule, right? 80% of my work is going to go to 20% when I'm going to increase that value stream. So these are the kind of things that we kind of concentrate on to make sure that we're in a better position to help our customers. And I am done.
Yeah, so, we, as a company, it's frustrating. I've been in sales. I've been a sales manager. I ran a lumber yard, and learned the business over the last 14 years with BMC. And, the way that builders act is part of the reason, and the way that suppliers and the way the whole channel acts is part of the reason why we're in the situation. So, this isn't like a preachy thing, but I think if you want to change, what I've seen in the last 14 years is the biggest change that we've got is when we've approached it differently by bringing in expertise to help us look at it. So our people in the field are getting educated. He talked about those 40 people. They're across all of our markets. So they learn this stuff, they come back, and they figure it out in their own market. And as manufacturers and distributors, and builders, you guys got the same problems because you got, 50 divisions or 20 divisions or 3 divisions. It can't come from on high. The CEOs, I say this, the CEOs of every market are the division presidents or the market managers or the general managers in the markets. That's where it has to happen. The corporate hierarchy is nice. It's nice to get their support, but if it doesn't happen at that level, then you can't really reboot your thinking. So I hope that was a good insight on what we're doing. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's what it was. So are we going to do questions?
Yeah, just hang on a second. Few questions from the floor and all the way down. Furthest away, Jenny.
Oh, good.
Any close ones? All right, she's getting there.
I have my flat shoes on. The example that you put up on the board with Woodside Homes, you quantified kind of the changes in having one trade contractor do more than what they would normally do,
Yeah.
including the volume of production that was done.
Yeah.
Was there a cost savings that you quantified to that as well?
From our standpoint, you know, we look at this value, that value stream piece that you saw from Bert. You know, so we went to the job less times, you know, less overall times, multiple deliveries together. So our delivery costs were down significantly. Our commissions, we changed the way we pay our outside salespeople and our internal people on commissions. So we're looking at those specific ways that we can take rifle approach, partnership type projects and work on that affordability, right? So Starlight, you know, is a pretty cool model. That was, you said Woodside, but it's actually Ashton Woods. If I said Woodside, I had it mistaken. It's Ashton Woods, and that project was in Houston. And so they were asking for us to help them figure it out. So it was a collaboration between their folks and our folks, and then the trades and finding the people that could do it. You know, so the tangible savings that we know of, we have metrics, but it blends into our total P&L, so it's hard to evaluate. Candidly, our margins increased. So our margin percentages increased on that job. The customer told us that they're saving a significant amount of money, you know, doing it that way, because they were able to extract labor savings, cycle time savings, waste savings, the quality savings, improved HERS scores, all that stuff they are getting through this different system, you know, approaching it through a different way. I hope that answers your question.
It was a more productive site. So you're looking at, just because you're more productive, sometimes it doesn't always fall down to the bottom line, but it was a more productive site. So they were faster, the quality was better, there's less returns on visits. So in a sense, can we associate that to the bottom line? No. And not all productivity falls down to the bottom line.
Just one other example is, and we have a few of these going on. We have NDAs with 3 or 4 top 10 national builders because they want to prove it out. They want to say, I want to prove this out. So let's do some projects and let's figure it out. And you know, we're paying consultants a whole bunch of money to prove that what we do actually will save them money. It seems ridiculous to me that we have to do that. You know, but no one's really counting. I love what you said, Scott. You know, that there's just not good math and people aren't counting what the potential is. But the impetus to move and change is, if you can't see it, then, you know, there's other industries out there.
Any other questions? Maybe just a comment. You know, my days before housing was products with GE Plastics, product development. And the greatest productivity you achieve is when materials prices actually go up.
Yes.
That kind of sounds odd, but your margins went up because you take waste out, time out.
Yep.
You got faster. So
Yep.
what happens, percentage-wise, materials go up. That's a sign of increasing productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, the challenge for all of us. We're going to take, Betsy's going to tell.
Question back in the back.
Another one there?
I just have one, sorry, John. Does this equation become easier when you're dealing with a single-family for rent project as opposed to a single-family for sale project?
Yes. I would say the optionality, you know, is where, you know, we have 300 designers that redraw plans every single day. They're headphones and they're redrawing into Scott's product, you know, MyTech Sapphire structure. You know, so we're redrawing that information feeds our saws. So the more repeatability of the product, the easier it is and the more affordable that can be. But that doesn't necessarily meet all product segments, you know, but I do think that, you know, houses for rent is going to be much bigger than we think it is. I know of a very large national builder that's going to be using their land position to handle their distressed lots and start to do that, you know, as a major initiative. So I think that, you know, they've approached us and say, hey, we want to use this there because of what you're alluding to.
Yeah, it seems to me that if I step back and go up a couple thousand feet, that the whole thing of the simplicity of the single-family for rent model and the fact that you tend to look at total cycle costs like Scott was talking about, because as you're an owner or landlord, you're thinking about that rather than necessarily lowest initial cost. It seems that is a great platform to try these new ideas and make them happen probably more quickly, and then they can migrate over into the for sale market. But it seems like a great just test channel to try these things.
I agree.
Last question, Mark?
John, just because you've shared what Ready Frame is, being pre-cut, labeled, I've worked with the builder and said, what's your framing crew? They say, I got an A team, a B team, a C team, and I even have a D team. And I look at that kind of variation that happens and feel what is the greatest reason why you see adoption not faster? Because when I look at what you're doing, it seems to improve performance, reduce waste, speed up a contractor, make them better at less waste in the field, is also less drywall cracks, a lot of efficiencies that come with that. What would you say is their only reason not to? Because I can't see any other reason than just lack of knowledge, because it seems so straightforward to do what you're doing.
Yeah. So first of all, we are seeing people change. So it's not as fast as we'd like it, not as fast as I'd like it. I'd say the biggest reason people don't want to change is because of money. The framers think that we're going to be taking money. So, when we make their job easier and take their crew from 5 to 4, the builder says, oh yeah, ding, 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 I want money. And they immediately, first thing that they do is say, hey, I want to charge you, you got to charge me 50 cents less a square foot. What we found is a better way to do that is to let them find the efficiencies and then come back with the savings. And in our mature markets, that's what we find. We find, like in Denver, a really good example, Lennar Homes, Frank is their division president, and he told me personally, said, initially we didn't pay any less, but when I go to bid the new subdivisions, now the bids are coming back 50 and 75 cents less, because they know the equation now and they can still make the money. So it's an evolution. And from a maturity standpoint, the big reason for us that it hasn't adopted faster is just we're trying to teach 25 businesses how to do business a different way from what they've learned how to do it, for the last 20 years, with order entry and load builders and dispatch and trucks and, forklifts and, and it's just it's a complex. So getting all those connection points on that simple little diagram, I mean, you could, if you took that diagram and spread it across markets, it's not just a linear spider web. It's a massive, a massive spider web for us across these markets. So trying to teach our people how to do it has been slower. But what I would tell you is we're getting to a domino point with the help of Bert and his team. We're utilizing process engineers for customer pilots with customers and evaluating, doing that value stream mapping and looking for partners. So, the days of a builder saying, hey, here's my plans, I'm gonna let you bid my work, and us, a salesman telling us where we're gonna go for our business, those days are numbered. And in a way, it's good because we don't have anyone coming up in the ranks, so the 50, I think our average age of our salesperson is 52 years old in our company. We have 450 salespeople, and they tell us where our business is going, essentially with relationships and orders and POs. They drive where we go. So now we can start to drive ourselves where we go and hopefully reduce that cost. They're the highest paid people in our company as well.
And sometimes it's just about, what I see, we've got continuous improvement managers that we send out on large jobs, and they're collecting data. We're constantly crunching the data, which is a little different from this industry. It's more what I'm used to in manufacturing. So we've got those guys out in the field, and they're continuously working on it. But when you look at ready frame panels, I mean, we build panels, we build wall trusses, we do the whole gamut. But when you look at it, just tell me what kind of problem you're trying to solve. What's your problem? Is it labor? Is it time? I mean, what's the problem?
Well, thanks again, and to Scott too.
Yeah.
Good food for thought, perfect opportunity for breakout. But first, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
First question. What would Alliance Innovation Homes do? Where do you see robotics and on-site industrialization evolving over the next 5 years? Going to start down there with Sekasui House. Pick your spokesman. Who's the spokesman?
You're the spokesman? Are you the spokesman?
I'm the spokesman.
Spokesperson.
First thing, we don't see much with robotics over the next 5 years. We just don't. But on industrialization, I think there's a huge opportunity if we understand that most builders don't have anybody that looks like an industrial engineer. Looking at what's going on, can you put cameras out on job sites, feed them back, and have industrial engineers look at what's going on? You could actually start looking at workflows, can look at body counts of who's out there. You can look at, you could put RFID tags or tie to people's phones to start using this thing of looking at motion over time and use artificial intelligence. There's an immense amount of things if the builder says, I'm going to look at what's going on totally in real-time data rather than saying, you know, I'm going to wait for somebody to say there were 5 guys here today. I think there's a huge opportunity there just with that simple degree of technology.
Okay, thank you. Stitch Fix. Where was Stitch Fix?
Okay, Stitch Fix is the front left. Where did my compadre Jenny go? Okay.
No, it's not fish sticks. So I guess we focused in on some different aspects of technology where robotics could have an impact. So we've seen in the press robotics used for masonry, robotics for mudding drywall, and some things like that. But we actually more of our conversation focused in on drones. And just that drones are a game changer because they're a robot that's not fixed in place, so they can be used for a lot of things that you up till the advent of drones you couldn't use a robot for. So we talked about using robotic layout for excavation to eliminate some of the site surveying, and it could even run the backhoe. We talked about using drones for I'm sorry, we also talked about, can't read my writing here. Using drones and self-guided vehicles. So basically, I think somebody had said before, considering that the highway is a conveyor belt. And so you'd use the drones for that. Using the drones for QC, monitoring status of completion, making sure that when the trades go out to a job site, that they're not making a wasted trip, so they would be able to use the drone to have the status of the job site.
Good, thank you, good thinking. Hotspot. Where's the hotspots?
Here.
Here. Come on, come on. Heads or tails?
I'm really not an expert at this. I do see advancements in the next 5 years. I think there'll be more panels. I think there'll be more parts and pieces in panels. I think there'll be holes drilled in studs to be able to pull wires. I think builders are going to find ways to be more affordable. I think the affordability issue is big enough, and the demand. I don't think there's going to be a big correction. So I think that there's going to be more stuff put in the wall panels, but I don't think there's going to be some massive overhaul I don't think some aggregator is going to come in and provide robotically built houses that we crane into place. I just got pictures from Northern California. You can't really see that, but Chuck can see that. So we're craning panels and trusses into place today. I just think there's going to be more in those panels, more stuff. That's the main thing that we see.
Okay. Thank you. Forgot what I am. Wink. Did we do wink? Wink.
So yeah, I don't know if we'll actually see these things in reality, but we kind of started small talking about having our Roomba to go around and finish our flat work and finish our drywall off, install our shingles on the roof. But then we went big on the other end and talked about what we really want to see is a full pop-up mobile factory. So drive it into the site. It expands, you feed the lumber in, and it builds the house right there on site. So instead of doing same concept as the off-site construction in the factory, but it's all happening right there. So yeah, so we're going to go big with that one.
Oh man, that's worth a drink in about an hour at Mark's place. I think. Interesting idea, though, taking this to the site. Sekisui, I did Sekisui. Icon.
Icon moved up.
Okay, Icon. So they connected with somewhere else?
They
All right.
consolidated and streamlined.
Okay, let's go to the next question then. What would Alliance Innovation Homes do? What role do you see off-site construction playing over the next 5 years? Water gen.
Water gen is in the middle of the front again.
Yeah, I think we talked about offsite being relevant and repeatable types of construction like student housing or multifamily or hotels, so growth. I agree with John. I think we'll see more panels and maybe more functionality in those panels as they go. But then we kind of start talking about, because we have two interiors folks here, threats to brands, like if Amazon's super successful, then they have Amazon brands. What does that do to the brands that we're used to seeing in the marketplace?
They've got the power to change some of that, haven't they? Target. Tajay. Is that Target?
Our discussion on that, on offsite in the next 5 years, the most immediate is going to be super subs and super suppliers. That seems to be the quickest path down that road. It could look like LP investing in Integra, so you've got the supplier manufacturer coming down, or it could be going the reverse with the Buddy Rainey that is a subcontractor that becomes a foundation contractor doing more than one thing. He's also a component manufacturer. So the simplest, fastest way for offsite to play a part in the next 5 years is to start bundling more trades, more services, to where you don't have so many SKUs.
Yeah, the super sub concept, doing more. I think Buddy down there, concrete, framing, he's looked at the plumbing, think of the insulation, like adjacent products. Good, thank you. All right, what did I have? Punch bowl. All right, Unity, it's yours.
So our conversations were similar to the other two groups with this question. I think we saw potential growth in the future. I think we talked a little bit about the challenges facing that, the resistance to change in markets. Also, though, we said there was a bit more capital coming into the industry in terms of being able to set up fixed assets to do some of the construction off-site. But the question is whether doing that is actually going to, with just one part of the whole system, is that going to actually achieve the cost savings, or are we going to have to look at it more, as a whole system kind of thing? So you're doing the ready frames, you're doing the modular construction, the paneled walls, things like that. So I don't know that we came to a conclusion on it. Anything you guys want to add? All right.
Go ahead. Punch bowl, where are you?
Yeah, so we discussed, a lot of those similar things. One thing we talked a lot about was offsite is not necessarily built in a factory, or, it's really creating a full optimized solution that you're thinking more along the lines of the cost savings, or you're thinking along the sides of what is going to add value to the customer's experience in purchasing that house. So does it add value in terms of them wanting to purchase a house quicker because it's a quicker build cycle? Does it add value because you can then value engineer this house? And so talking a lot about the optimization of it and shortening those cycle times.
We want to touch difference. Good. So next question, third. How can industrial engineering principles be applied to drive productivity on the job site? Airtable. Mike? Big table this one was.
No.
There are a lot of seats around that table. Yeah.
No, he's the industrial engineer. I just draw the pretty pictures. We looked at opportunity for having more of a manufacturing mentality, maybe where you can identify your workflow through process mapping and time schedules, and then look at ways to make those better. Continuous improvement as an activity, and looking for idea generation through feedback loop from the trades and subcontractors.
Simple but strong, those. Yep, you know it. All right. Can't see anything.
Amber, let's see, hold on. Yeah, Amber and
Amber.
Toronto are on that side. If you want to go that direction.
Who's up?
So we had similar responses, identifying bottlenecks and constraints in workflows, benchmarking KPIs, to ultimately implement process engineering analysis to streamline operations and drive efficiencies in the process.
Yeah, you can tell you got some industrial engineering minds on that table. Thank you. For rent.
Who's the speaker?
So we had some, actually some good answers on this one, 6 or 7 good ones. We picked our best 2. So I think the first one is implementing just-in-time delivery methods. So using time studies to really optimize all the transport planning. And then the second one was really working to provision very detailed delivery instructions and using ReadyFrame as an example. But could that be expanded? Could you use that to build the most, robust start package that's possible? So, basically to make sure that the job starts correctly and starts on the right road.
Thank you. Sweet Green, last one on this question. No? Oh, I'm sorry.
They streamline their operation.
See, I get slapped all the way.
I'll add one thing I just thought of, and that is that I think that if a builder starts to market and use how much better their product is, kind of along what you talked about in your piece, that will drive that change faster. So if builders can use it as a sales tool, if they're using more advanced methods, higher quality, they can figure out a way to market it. And I think with the digital age and social media and pictures, I think that's going to speed a lot of this up, especially if builders decide to do it.
So
Good. Interesting.
This last question, let me borrow that for a second. This last question may have seemed off topic for those of you who had it, because Scott created some new stuff for this event. And actually, when we talked initially, he talked about the value of a saved day. So that's still, you guys have it. I still want to hear it, but it might sound odd to you when we ask you what you were thinking of how to measure a value of a saved day. But that was where that came from. And we'll go back and connect to some of his materials on that front too, since we didn't cover it here. That was what you said you were going to do. Yep. And then you changed your mind.
I looked at back at my notes. Anyway, we can do that at the next one, but please, you just send that info at TrueNorth.com. We'll send you the save day calculator. Again, half the people do. Just send me or call me up, what'd you learn? That's all we want to know. What are you learning from that? Okay, and then I can put that into the presentation next time.
And then
I'll need 22 minutes.
Okay. Well, I was very impressed that you did 21 and a half minutes. That was very impressive. So sorry. So Peloton was the first one who had how can housing providers measure and capture the value of a saved day. So I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
Well, I was told there would be no math. So a bit of a disadvantage here. So we found that there were approximately 7 items. Cost to carry or interest reduction, supervision reduction, increase in goodwill to the customer, very difficult to measure though. Increased capacity for the organization, increased quality, risk exposure reduction, and we went a little further and said some of the tools for measurement for the value of the saved day would be the schedule, manpower charts, and cash flow models.
Thank you. Shopify and Alibaba. So Shopify.
Point me in the right direction, Betsy.
Yep.
Here I am.
Okay.
Thanks for coming. Anyway, so we have some builders in our group, and we basically kick this around with the cost to carry, VPOs, EPOs, and then better documentation and control, cost accounts. Things to we need to break that down. I was just talking to Keith. We're going to look up Scott's save date formula and see what's in there. Wish we had that now. We'd use that as our guide. But essentially, we came up with there is no really good, clean way to do that, which is the struggle. Why we don't do things like ready frame or use trusses, because it's at $1,500 higher, and there's no way to spread that cost out into all these other variables. And that also, in a builder organization, much like many other organizations, everyone is siloed. So the sales and marketing have their objectives and are compensated in a certain way. Warranty is done, production's done, purchasing is done a different way. And they're in conflict. So you could be saving somebody money there, and they're not going to give it to somebody else within the organization. So it really is an impediment to trying to get things done more efficiently. And so I think the challenge for the rest of the team, besides us, because we are creating the challenge, is you need to figure that out by the time we have the next summit. So that's how we're leaving that. Thank you very much.
Oh. You must get along with Tilly well, don't you?
So our group talked about a lot of the same things as the first group did, but a couple of things that we kind of agreed we probably don't take into account most of the time. One centered around change orders. The conversation in our group was, if you're a builder and you get a change order with your customer, are you taking into account your cost to carry and the additional days that change order is going to add to the cycle time when you're building your house? Are you taking that cost to carry into account when you factor that in? And at our group, the consensus was that that's something that is not being captured. And then secondly, we kind of talked about the benefit to the subcontractor in terms of what the cycle time is. And from our perspective, being a subcontractor and being a turnkey framer, one of the things that we find very attractive with the production builder in particular is we want to understand how long it takes that builder to get through that framing scope of work, and we will price that stuff accordingly in terms of how aggressive that cycle time is for a builder. And if someone can go from frame start, get all mechanicals through in 30 days versus 90 days, it becomes very meaningful for us as a subcontractor to work with someone like that. One of our sayings that we talk about all the time is a fast nickel beats a slow dime. And more times you can turn that capital over, more houses you can get throughout the course of the year, all that trickles down to the bottom line, for a sub, and I think in a lot of ways for a builder as well. So, that's kind of, sometimes a hidden thing, I think, potentially in terms of, the cost to carry or the value of a saved day even, so.
Was that all, the tables?
I think so.
Okay, well, again, a lot of great points. We can have a copy, or you captured notes, as well as the table sets. Betsy and the team will be assembling those. And then our challenge, as we look to some of the councils with you, what do we go after? What can we do to help between now and next time we meet? But first, thank you. A lot of great ideas. I'll hand it to Betsy. Who'll tell you about next 4 hours.
Oh, Shirley, you just. We are going to do a quick wrap up, but we do have a snack back there for you because your blood sugar is probably a little low right now. There are some leftover sandwiches if you want to take one on the plane or you want another one. But I do want to give you a couple of very, very key housekeeping items that before we talk broader wrap up, just to make sure everybody is intact sitting here and hasn't jetted out the room yet. So the first one is the presentations. All but one of them are fit to print and will be posted on our website and shared with you by the end of the week. And just because I know a lot of times you have to prove that you aren't just sitting here drinking by the pool, or 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 that you were doing things over the course of a couple days. You might want some photos for social media or things to share with your team. We're also going to just kind of upload, and forgive me because there's probably thousands of them. We're going to upload all of the photos we've taken over the past couple of days to a Google link and share that with you so you can download whatever you want. And then over probably the next week, we'll call through those and pull some of the best of them. So if you want us to do the harder work, we'll do that as well. Again, yes, please send your notes to us. There's a ton of stuff that you guys have come up with over the last couple of days. I'm a little sad we didn't get to the first set of questions on the first day, but I think the opportunity is for us to step back and say, from what we looked at over the course of these 2 days, what do we want to talk about further? So, and pull that up to a higher level on our next steps. We do have, as Michael said, a process mapping webinar in June. We don't have a date yet, but we'll have a date by Tuesday of next week, because I'll just sit down with you and we'll pick a date. We do have an architecture-based challenge webinar with Molly. It's actually a 2-part series. I mentioned it to you guys yesterday. It's the 25th of April. And it's very exciting. The first part is with Hanley Wood, and it's the trends data that they've got through Myers Metro Study, looking at affordability and kind of the floor plan, the footprints of houses. And then there are There's 4 architecture firms who are going to come to the table with the idea of doing a 1,500 square foot house, and what would that look like? So if we're looking to decrease the footprint and use that to drive affordability, you'll get ideas from 4 different lead architecture firms.
And the key to that is, let me just kind of touch on what we're trying to do. So the focus really is to look at spaces more than the house itself. So how do I get a 1,500 square foot house to live like a 2,000 square foot house, which, as I understand, you guys are looking at that. But I'm calling it sort of the Apple Home Challenge. So how do I actually take all the utilities that they've taken in and consolidated into that single device? How do you take all the utilities of a home as it relates to laundry, kitchen, family, entertainment, outdoor space? How does that all live together? And can that be simplified? And what are the realities of it? So the first webinar is trends from the consumer and the things that are important to them that need to be sort of taken into consideration. And then the second part is these 4 architectural firms sort of solving for those challenges. They have the right to go to micro house all the way up to that 1,500, but I've asked them to really focus on spaces and how to make small space live big. So Bassini and Lagoni is one of them, KTGY is one of them, Mike Woodley, who I think is awesome in this kind of stuff, is one of them, and Dallin is the 4th. So it should be really fun. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what they come up with. So I've already seen a little bit of it, so it's kind of cool.
So just wanted to mention those couple of things that are coming up, and then you'll get from us, but as we were putting together the questions for the last couple of days, we were also saying, in addition to what we're going to talk about in here, what are some follow-up outputs that we can give you guys? So we did that in the pre-planning process for the summit. So we'll get back to you with some high-level notes from the event, as well as some of the things you can expect to see come out from the process. And then we'll also invite you guys to come back with us and participate in a phone call to say, on the design side or the customer experience side, I'd like to see this kind of stuff move forward. I'd like us to dig further, more deeply into these areas. So we're going to do that for each of the main segments, so you can have a voice in how we progress and how we dig further into each of the areas that we're looking at. Yeah, we'll take 5 minutes, grab a snack, go to the bathroom, and then we'll just do the final wrap up when George comes back in the room. George is going to lead us. He's got a little task for everyone to do for a few minutes, and then he's gonna be the one who's gonna walk around the room. And don't think you can pick someone to run your table, because he's gonna pick who talks. Right, George?
Okay, come on in. And this works better if you put more people than not at tables. So just, if there's just 2 of you, I suggest find another 2 and make it 4. If there's 3, find another 1 or 2, make it 5 or 6. It really works better because otherwise I'll really call on you. So here's the assignment, simple one. We've been through, a day and a half or not more of talking, of presentations, so on and so forth. I want you among yourselves, go through and write down the 3 major takeaways that you got from the last couple days. Write them down. Then I'm going to come around and just randomly pick from you and ask what's the one out of those 3 that you think is probably most important. Okay? We got 5 minutes, go. Okay. So let's go around. I'm going to just start putting the microphone in front of people. So again, you've talked about kind of 3 key takeaways, and then I'm going to ask you, what was the one? So Steve Tuckerman, you're first.
I shared this with George at lunch. I would just say the human equation. We all know that's sort of cliche, but honestly, that's the essence of our business. We deal with customers, we deal with trades, we deal with employees, and I think we all work hard at that, but I think there's more to be done there, and it's central to all the innovation we want to try to make is going to involve our people, those relationships.
For an architect type, that was a pretty good answer. Oh, and there you go.
For me, it was the innovation that kind of came through from things like the DigiBuilt, the light switches, and the electrical innovations that are going on there. Kind of just opening up the possibilities of what can be done. So.
Okay. Yep. She wanted to talk. Here she goes.
So I think 3, I can make them, I'm in marketing, so I can make them pretty concise. Love your customer, hire diversity, leverage technology.
Very good. Here we go.
So we had a lot of the same answers. So the big one we settled on was trade relationships. Just continue to drive the trust, respect in the builder-trade relationship.
Good. Tony?
So I got to tell you, I meet with a lot of salespeople. They're always trying to sell me stuff. And I met with this one who was trying to sell me these connected smoke detectors and CO detectors. And I have to be honest with you, I spent like a nanosecond considering that. So my best takeaway from this, and maybe it's just because I'm about shoulder deep in this connected home thing, was that survey. So that salesperson is going to be very happy when I call him back.
You're my man, Tony. Russell?
Yeah, Cheryl talked on Monday, love your customer. I think you guys got to love the trades. This is a new industry for me, and being in a factory and managing huge teams, 2,300 people, I was there for the people, right? I think that everybody here, the home builders, the developers, live on the backs of the trades. And those relationships, you have to figure out long-term how to do something for them, how to make that really, really work well. And that's just, it's a huge problem, just like innovation, but I think you got to love your trades and figure that out.
Sure.
If I could just follow up on that. Look, I think that's a great point. One of the things we're working on where I work is this a supplier scorecard. And the reason why I want something is I want to be able to follow up with a trade. You catch a trade doing something right and thank them for it. Right now, every so often I'll have a field manager come in. I want you to fire this trade. Well, wait a minute. He was doing fine. What's he doing, right? And, this notion that, there's just another trade. There's a long line of trades lined up at your door. Get rid of this one and let the next one index forward is a misnomer, right? So I think, along the lines, that really resonates with me. Love your trade, but, just change your mindset. Catch people doing something right and thank them for it.
Yeah, why should you treat your trades any different than your employees, right? Yeah. Jonesy.
First of all, I love the Ralph Baja's
presentation and reveal the steel. Don't reveal the steel, or don't steal the reveal. Thank you. I really liked that. I liked how he was talking about people, take pictures at special moments of their life, so they help create that special moment so that people are taking it. There was just a lot of things throughout about driving simplicity throughout everything we do, and I think I can take a lot away from that and continue to push that in our organization.
Thanks. By the way, I haven't said that just. Isn't Lieutenant Dan pretty good?
I think, we hit on a lot of really good things in the customer experience and everything, which echoes basically what everybody else has said. But I think one of the biggest takeaways I had was getting to the why when it comes to technology. There's so much technology out there, and there's so many things you could do, and there's so much that we do look at that is just cool. But cool is not what matters when we're trying to fix these problems. It's getting to the root of what's it going to do and how's it going to impact our business and our customer.
Great.
Me? So we came up with 11 things. No, first one takeaway was that we're just not so good at building houses, and we have a long way to go. Second one is developing innovative relationships with trades with move beyond just the traditional subcontractor agreement. And I think third one here, I'm just going to parrot, love the customer and love the trade as well.
Great.
I'm going to break it down into an acronym for you. LITAR, L-I-T-A-R, love. Am I doing something? Hello? Okay. Love your customer, teams, trades, etc. ID issues that are creating barriers and then figure out how to break down to overcome them. Trust your customers, teams, and trades. Avoid conflict through clear communication. I don't know why. And the last one is R, respect your customer, your team, your trades, etc.
Way to go. Keith.
One of my favorite ones is that I got from here is we have to understand our costs better. This industry is terrible. And this thing about budgeting, we make our decisions based on the budget, which isn't the true cost of a unit or a building. We know what it is when the total number of units we make. We know what our total cost is. And that's about as deep as we really go in this industry. We need to understand what it's costing us every day on every job. We need more cost accountants that are involved with this, bringing in the accounting department, because that's when you can talk to the CEO of a big corporation and make some sense out of the things we all want to try to do.
Amen, brother. There was a name and brag. That was Tony. No surprise.
That was loud. Let's do it again.
That sounded hollow. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, based on what Cheryl had said, I started thinking about Southwest, and Southwest says we're a customer service company that happens to fly planes. Some of them are grounded right now, but they fly planes. And the other thing is, just on a leadership component, I think the people that stay in a company stay because of their manager. They feel like there's a mission, there's a movement, and there's a purpose to their life. And I think if we can inspire more people, we'll get the most out of them. And otherwise, they're just in a state of mediocrity most of the time.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a hell of an epitaph? He was mediocre.
One thing I wanted to address that aligns with the trades is many of you probably are also doing or currently doing quality control assessments. And those same quality control assessments can be used as trade measurement tools. At Kirkhomes, we had a 480-point quality control QI process. And the process was used both for quantifying the bonus that all the field staff were going to get, as well as evaluating our trades at the time of contract renewal.
Great, I'm going to rotate over here. You're next.
A lot of good, we had a discussion that highlighted a lot of the things said here. So the only add I'd say is we really talked about loving your employees. because if you love them and they feel loved, they're going to love your customer. So we said that, and then and ultimately, it's complicated. Like this, there's no easy fix here. A lot of smart people have been trying to fix this. It's going to take rooms like this to actually make impactful change.
Great. Let me go over here. Here we go. You're on.
A few things we came up with. We realized that people spend $1+ billion on pet costumes. And on top of that, BIM is very expensive overall for most companies. And customers go to Disney more frequently than they are buying homes. So there must be something to the Disney piece from loving your customer. And the total cost is quality and customer experience.
You know, we were talking about the opening comments on the customer experience, and we heard about love the customer, but I think the opportunity is how far down how far below we are on this whole net promoter score and what the customer's getting out of home buying. Learned a lot about cost of quality. We learned a lot about technology. I think we just have to act on it. Somebody's got to leave here and do something to change it.
Several of you probably met Johnny Sicilian, who was here today, and I've known his mom, Kathy, for a long time. And about a decade ago, she did some consumer research for me. And going out randomly asking people on the street, describe the home buying experience. And it came in below the experience of having a root canal. And it was painful. And so I keep looking at that, the opportunities of how you deal with a customer, treat a customer, and so on. Just a huge opportunity that's there.
Okay, for me, 3 takeaways. First of all, I was pleased to see the focus on affordability and that that's a priority for pretty much everybody in the room. And there were a lot of very good strategies around how to address affordability, from plan design to offsite manufacturing. The second takeaway is BIM. There's strong interest in BIM in the room, but clearly the tools and the know-how just isn't there yet. And that's really delaying the deployment of BIM, which I think is a big enabler for offsite manufacturing and driving more efficiency. And finally, many of us see the benefits of offsite manufacturing, but nobody has really a clear approach. Is it modular? Is it just simply wall panels? And how do you address the labor issue? And those are still challenges, I think, for all of us, because the labor side of it is still going to be a big challenge, and that's one thing we didn't really address, as aggressively as the other parts.
Okay, I'm going to kind of stop it here, if I could. And to wrap up on time, I wanted to do a couple things. First, those of you who have sponsored us for the year, thank you. That just, it is, without you, this doesn't happen. So know you, know us, thank you. Second, I would be remiss in not calling out the team that actually makes this happen. And that includes Michael Dickens over here, Jenny Gross, Rachel Kelly, and the ever-popular Betsy Scott. There's a lot of work to make this seem as easy as it is. And just imagine putting together these tables so that there's different people in the right mix 3 times over. You'd need an algorithm and a Cray computer to make that happen. I would love an algorithm. But she wants an algorithm. Yeah. We also thank you. We know that sometimes it's uncomfortable to open up with oftentimes people you don't know. And we do appreciate the frankness that you bring to the room. And we hope that when you go back, you've gone back with friends that you never had before, with business contacts that may be beneficial for both of you. but also maybe this, I call it a hazy watercolor vision of what the home builder of the future might look like. And you can see that there might be multiple paths to get there. What you learn is just choose one and do it really well. That there are going to be multiple ways of building houses, on-site, off-site, panels, modules, so on and so forth. Choose one and do it very well. And in the process, take the lessons that you've taken from here and apply them. So, to all of you, thank you very much. Have a great, great rest of the year. Betsy?
Thank you, George. As always, a great wrap-up. Two final logistics things. We like to be as green as possible, so drop your name badges by the door. And any of you who are coming on the tour with us at Construction Instruction Live, we're going to meet by the front door in the lobby at 4 o'clock, and we're going to, Mark has arranged for Ubers to take us over there, and then if you're going straight to the airport, you can bring your stuff with you. And if you're coming back here, you'll just be able to leave whenever you're ready from CI Live. Just take your own Uber back. So thank you, everyone, for coming and for being so participatory, and excited to see what else we can do together through the rest of the year. Oh, sorry. Any final thoughts, Michael?
I just echo what George said. Thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Innovation in this industry is tough. Anyone who thinks it isn't, you're dreaming. But the good thing is you're here, so you believe in it. Collaboration was a word we heard a lot. I encourage you, let's collaborate more. You know, let's keep the openness and that business value case about the numbers, Keith, we got to dig into that and get that value case. We haven't forgotten off-site. We've had a year of focusing on it because you guys told us a year or more ago it was important. So we had a heavy year. I just had a discussion with someone, said it hasn't gone, even though we didn't focus today, it's important. But there are other important elements as well, hence productivity, on-site improvements, etc. I think Betsy's challenge now, what do we do after here? You know, with a tiny team, you're on the team, but we haven't yet fully worked out integrate you and leverage, you know, the brains. But what we do after here, the roadmaps, the top things that we'd love your input and saying, what can we look at for you, with you? And I look forward to that. But this was great. Again, hands off to you and the team, small team, but this is a great place. I thought it was the best ever. So thank you. And thank you, guys.